I don't know why I started off so weird. Hi, you're listening to Bloodhouse, the show where we talk about art house horror movies. I'm your host, Joshua Conkle.
And I'm your Anthony Perkins and Psycho stand-in, Drusilla Adeline. Welcome to another week. Josh, how you doing?
I'm a little bit sick. I
Oh
have like a
no.
frog in my throat and I've been coughing a little bit, so I'm highly medicated, underslept. I'm leaving like tomorrow to go shoot my film. So I'm feeling a little bit wonky. So listener, you'll have to forgive me today. How are you, Drew?
I'm good. It's one of my best friend's birthdays today, which is
Oh.
very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We're all going out to dinner later tonight. But my mother has sent her a birthday present to me to give to her, and I have a bunch of presents to give to her, and I totally forgot that I have to go get gift bags for all of these things now. And so I'm like, how much time do I have to get ready, to look good, and to also go shopping? We'll see.
I mean, just wrap that shit in old magazines or something.
If you think the old magazines in my home are for cutting up and wrapping, you are sorely mistaken. My vintage porn magazines and Elvira magazines are not for that.
I'm like dorky enough that I do keep a certain amount of like wrapping paper and gift bags and shit like that in my house. Like I just have that stuff somehow.
I keep a lot of tissue paper, and I keep a lot of wrapping paper for Christmas and stuff like that. And I've got like bubble mailers and stuff for like selling things on eBay occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
But I went through all my bags at Christmas. It's so close that I wasn't able to restock.
Yes.
It's annoying.
That is annoying.
But one day.
Have you been watching anything cool?
I have. So I have, I'm doing what I can to watch more movies at the top of the year. And so what I've been doing is, as I work, since I work from home, I design posters for P&A, the lovely agency which chooses to employ me because they're so cool and I'm so lucky. I have my nice big desk set up, which is nice and mean and cool. And then I have a TV mounted above me that has like a Chromecast on it and a Laserdisc and a VCR. So I'm usually watching something or listening to music while I'm working. But I've been doing my best to put like on one movie from the Criterion Channel a day while I'm working, just to like keep up with my fucking, like, it's good for my health. I need to be eating my greens, like, and it's also like fun and cozy and great. And so it's like my own private curated like TCM in the background. It's lovely. So I can only watch English language stuff for that reason, which is limiting. But so it's forced me to watch a lot more kind of classic British films, which I've seen like a lot of the heavy hitters. I've seen like the David Lean Brief Encounter. I've seen like almost all the Powell and Pressburger movies, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of Hammer movies. But there's a lot of like kind of sifty in betweens because, we culturally know Humphrey Bogart and, James Cagney and Joan Crawford and Bette Davis and all of the big American Hollywood stars very, very, very well. But we don't have similar like knowledge and cultural respect for British cinema from the same period, and that sucks, and I would like to have more. And one of the ones I watched recently was a banger, and I really, really liked it. It's I think Criterion had it on in their kind of like gaslight noir collection. So films that are all like film noir slanted, but told from very woman's point of view, and a lot of like entirely too many movies that were made about just gaslighting women, and they rock. And this one is called So Long at the Fair.
Okay.
It was made in 1950. It's co-directed by Terrence Fisher, who would go on to be the #1 Hammer horror director.
Yeah.
And it stars Gene Simmons, not the one from Kiss, the one from Spartacus. And a very young matinee idol, Dirk Bogarde, who is like, I'm always saying I'm a lesbian, and then men like Dirk Bogarde show up, and I'm like, no, maybe not. Maybe not. I love me a twinky little British boy, and between like The Servant and The Night Porter and Victim and The Damned, and he rocks so much. I love him so much.
Really quick, what's your take on Timothée Chalamet as like a sexual object? I mean, I can see that he's good looking, and I think he's a good actor, but to me, he looks like a child, and so I don't.
He looks like a child.
Being.
I think like he looks too much like a child. He's got like good cheekbones and a chin,
Mm-hmm.
so that's neat. He's very pretty, but I think that's outweighed by him looking super young, which he doesn't anymore, but his biggest roles he does.
Yeah.
But it's more outweighed by acting like a little douchebag.
Oh, does he act like a little? I did hear that he gave everyone at NYU chlamydia while he was there.
I know. I love that story.
I know people that went to NYU with him, so I think
I've heard there's like a nickname like Timothy Chlamydia or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's very funny.
You're talking about a British movie.
Dirk Bogarde's hotter, and he's twinky in a way that's not like sleazy. He's like, I don't know. He's refined twinky. And in The Servant, he's gonna ruin your life. So Long at the Fair is based on, I truly don't think this is a true story. It absolutely is just like an old wives' tale rumor kind of folk story that just caught a lot of wind. But it was the basis for the Alfred Hitchcock movie The Lady Vanishes, and the fucking Jodie Foster movie Flight Plan from like 2008.
Oh, weird.
Which the classic story is a woman and a grandmother, child, brother, some kind of a connection to them are traveling, and the woman wakes up one day and the person that she's traveling with is no longer there, and asks people around her in authority, being like, hey, where's that person that I was with? And they're like, what person? You were here alone. You've been here alone this whole time. And then has to like... So Long at the Fair is the most literal version of it because it plays on the absolute old like myth where this comes from, which it's always pitched by people like Alfred Hitchcock in interviews as being a true story. I don't think it is.
Right.
But the story is woman and mother or grandmother, but in this it's woman and brother. Gene Simmons and her brother, played by David Tomlinson, are like traveling through Europe. They're British, and they go to the 1889 Paris World's Fair exposition. And Paris is like super packed. They check into like one of the nicest hotels, so they have a reservation. And she starts to have like a bit of a flirtation with Dirk Bogarde, and he's super hot. And she wakes up the next morning to her brother Johnny is just missing. He's nowhere to be found. She goes to his room, and the porter's like, that's the bathroom. There's room 19's never existed. There's never been a room 19. What are you talking about? And like goes around, and like everyone at the hotel is like, no. And even like other people that she's met are like, well, I don't remember meeting your brother. Like I may have, like, I just met you. The only other person that believes her is Dirk Bogarde because her brother like loaned him some money. So they have to team up together, kind of like Mario Bava, Giallo kind of style, to kind of solve the mystery.
Yeah.
And the old wives' tale, the old like kind of folk story, is that the hotel covered up the death of this person, of the grandmother, or in this case, the brother, because they were ill, called for the doctor. The doctor came, diagnosed them with the bubonic plague.
Whoa.
And killed them out of like sympathy and fear so that it wouldn't spread during the Paris Expo.
That sounds really good.
It's really, really fun. But it's a story that's always like kind of like set really weird in my gut, because all of these people have to agree to this like kind of cabal of thought to convince someone that they're crazy, solely so they don't admit that there is a health crisis.
Mm-hmm.
so that they can stay in business and make a lot of money because a bunch of tourists are coming. Because when they finally admit it in the movie, they're like, he has the, as you call it, the plague. And the hotel is fully booked. The expo, she's in town. Had they known the plague was here, they would all leave, and we would not have the money. And you're supposed to be like, I see why you did that. This is understandable. You made a tough but fair call. Living in a post-COVID America, I'm like, the fuck is this shit? You want people to fucking die for capitalism in 1889?
Of course.
God damn it.
You can't get away from it.
So my fucking commie ass is like, ooh, fun gothic. This is great. I liked it a lot.
I'm flashing on the book, which I know that they did an adaptation of, but I never saw it. I did read the book, Devil in the White City.
Yes.
Which is so excellent. It's about...
I love Devil in the White City.
The Chicago World's Fair. Yeah. Which I think was in the Victorian era at some point. But they call him sometimes America's first serial killer, which I'm sure he wasn't. But it's set in the White City, which is the Chicago World's Fair. So half the chapter is about Olmsted, who's like the architect designing the White City, aka World's Fair. And the other chapters are about H.H. Holmes, a serial killer who took advantage of the World's Fair to lure young women to his hotel, which was basically like a giant saw trap, as near as I can tell. Like, it was full of booby traps and shit like that. And he was just like murdering young women who came.
He had like fucking like hatches to just drop bodies down to the cellar in the incinerator and stuff like that. It's really fucking crazy. And like there's like access to the walls so he could like watch people, and
it's cool.
It was supposed to be made to a movie like years ago by Scorsese with DiCaprio, and it never happened.
Oh, it never happened. I just remember the news, I guess.
It never happened, and then it changed hands a couple times. Like people's contracts on it lapsed, and then it went to this director, and this actor was attached, and then it was supposed to become a mini series, and then it was going to be at Hulu, and then that fell through, and like as far as I know, it's not going to be made, and that's a shame because that's a really good property. It just would cost a lot of money.
And the reason it toggles back and forth is the book kind of presents them both as like genius architects, even though one is like a serial killer and one is an architect. It made me think of your movie.
It's a really compelling way of doing it. And I like stuff like that. It's very easy for like human beings to get lost and caught up in the cogs of giant capitalistic machines, and for people to take advantage of giant capitalistic machines to get for sadistic means. And we'll talk about that a bit with the movie we're talking about today. But like, I think it's really, really great to humanize those elements in that way. I mean, that kind of like Columbo-esque amateur investigation is a really good way of like humanizing that story. It's also part of the reason why I love more political movies like that deal with similar settings and topics, but in like during like coup d'etats in South America and stuff like that, like the films of Costa Gavras, like Missing with Sissy Spacek and Jack Lemmon, or like Z, his movie from 1969 that won a bunch of Oscars. Adore stuff like that. It's a great way of taking like a larger political idea and issue and humanizing it and like putting the audience through it and having them do a lot of the like detective work. It's really good. So Long at the Fair is just like a nice cozy short little one to put on, and I
really
recommend it. There's a lot of great it's produced by Gainsborough Pictures in England, and there's a lot of really, really great kind of pulpy ones like that, a lot of them that star Dirk Bogarde over on the channel, and I highly recommend it.
That sounds really good. Yeah. I watched something that I hadn't seen before. I was at work on a break, and I have on my coffee table in my office, I have Kier-la Janisse's House of Psychotic Women, which is a book I love. I've talked about Kier-la Janisse on this podcast all the time. I think everything that she does is gold. I'm just like so obsessed with her. In fact, I cornered her at Salem Horror Fest. Was like, I'm the biggest fan. And she's like, oh my God, I'm going to get miseried by this person. So I love that book. And I was just sort of flipping through on a break, and I ran across a movie that I hadn't seen or heard of called The Attic from 1980. And I searched for it last night. The only place you can find it is on YouTube, so it's not very good quality. It's like VHS quality. And it's this movie from 1980 starring Oscar-winning actor Carrie Snodgrass, who won an Oscar for Diary of a Mad Housewife in
Which
1970. And
I
she was an
adore
easy
that
writer.
movie.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
incredible. And she's the star of this movie. And it's like a very House of Psychotic Women type movie. She is a spinster at like not even 40 years old who lives alone with her father, who's in a wheelchair, and he's verbally abusive to her. And she, 20 years before the start of the movie, on her wedding day, the only man she ever loved disappeared into thin air. And so ever since then she's been obsessed with him, and she's become an old widow, and she's not even 40, but and very beautiful, but she dresses like a cartoon like hen or something, like very school marmy, and she's a professional librarian, and she's also a really bad secret drinker, and the library is forcing her to retire. And so she's training a young woman who's going to take over, and they become friends. And it all is kind of like unraveling. She's sort of having a nervous breakdown, and there's like a big reveal at the end. It's really interesting because it's not really a horror movie. The key art has like one of those scary monkey dolls with the symbols.
Oh
And it's
yeah.
got a tagline that, the movie's called The Attic too, which just feels like an actual horror movie. And the tagline is like, it's just 13 steps to terror or something like that. And it
Mm-hmm.
all feels very like, don't, from Grindhouse. But
Yeah.
it could not be further from that. It's like more or less a drama, kind of melodrama. It has a lot of 70s elements, even though it came out in 80. Like it has those like psychotic flute thing, like music, and it's got like all of the songs that sound like that Amy Irving song from Carrie, like sort of like folk music ish.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good though, and there's like fewer than 100 reviews on Letterboxd of this movie, and I just don't know why I haven't heard of it. It feels very similar to me
Damn.
as like The Witch That Came from the Sea, if you've
I
seen
need to
that.
see that one. I've heard a lot about it. That's also mentioned a lot in Kayla Janisse's book.
Yeah,
I've been wanting to see that for a long time.
it's really good. This is not as good as Witch That Came from the Sea, but it is like I just love those House of Psychotic Women movies. It's like my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, Kayla Janisse just like nails my favorite subgenres. Like people didn't really, of course they did, but like folk horror as a subgenre, she kind of like codified and made giant with her
Mm-hmm.
studies and her documentary. And I think she did the same to a lesser degree with House of Psychotic Women or like Psychotic Women films, but I just feel like those are kind of less popular in a general sense. So but I love her work so much, and I'm really thankful that I got to see this movie. It's worth watching. It's on YouTube.
She's incredible. The work that she does for film history and film preservation is truly second to none. Like, it's absolutely incredible. And the like lengths that Severin goes to help like get her work out there and get the movies that she's talking about on disc and like produce these gorgeous editions. She's truly one of the most important figures in
Yeah.
film right now.
And I
I
also recently discovered Kinky Films, which we've talked a lot about, which
mhm.
she did that box set too. And I didn't
Yes, she
even know it
did.
until after I fell in love with it. I was like, damn, she's just like on it for me.
She's killing them. I definitely should see The Attic. It's co-directed by Gary Graver,
Hmm.
who I'm interested in because I've never seen anything directed by him. He spent a lot of time working in very cheap exploitation horror movies for like the 60s through like the early 2000s. Um, but the most interesting thing about him to me is that he spent a good portion of the late 60s and early 1970s working for Orson Welles. He
Oh,
was Orson
interesting.
Welles' cameraman for the whole like end of his life in the beginning of Gary Graver's career. He shot The Other Side of the Wind,
Oh,
um,
wow.
the final movie of Orson Welles that was only just finished recently at Netflix. And I think he also worked on F for Fake. Um, and he was like working on all these cheap horror and exploitation movies to like get money and pay the bills. And then on the weekends, he'd drive out to the desert and hang out with Orson Welles and just shoot whatever he wanted for free.
That's crazy. This movie has a
Fucking
weird
awesome.
tone and some weird things like that. There's a midway through, her friend, as a surprise, buys her a monkey to like cheer her, literally a monkey, like a chimp. And so half the movie there's like a chimp in a sailor suit that's her only friend, basically. It's just
Cool.
very, it's an odd movie, but it's definitely worth watching.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is pair it with Phenomena.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that would be a great double pairing. Well, this week we are talking about a really interesting one. It is a movie that I chose, but I haven't seen, and neither had Drusilla. And I chose it because my friend Andy recommended it when we started the podcast. He saw it and really liked it. And since then, a couple of other people have either messaged me or sent an email saying like, oh, you guys should do this movie. I had never heard of this movie before I was told by these people to watch it. Drusilla, you had heard of this movie and its reputation, right?
Yes, so when I was like getting into movies and stuff as like a 15-year-old essentially, and you hear a lot about, I got into like Straw Dogs and I got into like Pier Paolo Pasolini, and so like a lot of that's going to lead you towards more quote unquote extreme cinema. And I like vividly remember when Lars von Trier's Antichrist came out and seeing that, and a lot of the discussion over stuff like that. And so this movie was kind of mentioned alongside other things like Dusan Makaveyev's movies like Sweet Movie and WR, and Pier Paolo Pasolini stuff like Salo, and then more recent stuff like a Serbian film at a really far end. Taxidermia kind of always like fell somewhere between that and like Roy Andersson, who made Songs from the Second Floor and Pigeon Sat on a Branch Reflecting on Existence, who like, I love that kind of stuff. And so I was always like, interesting. And I had seen stills of one of the characters in this movie who the majority of the stills are of. And I was always like, I don't know if I want to watch that, but we'll see. Maybe one day. And we had planned on watching something else this week, and then you texted me and was like, let's just watch this. And I was like, I guess it's time. All right. So then I watched it today. I put it off until the final hour because that's the way I am with movies like this. And it was quite literally like Googling online where to watch Taxidermia 2006. I was like, I'm gonna have to rent this or something. It's not available for rent. I wasn't able to go out to a video store today and pick it up there, so I had to rely on streaming. It is oddly only available on Here TV for like heterosexual listeners. Here TV is one of a handful of gay streaming services along like Deku and stuff like that, and it like almost exclusively is like Twinkie gay movies, and every single one is like a shirtless guy on the cover, and it's like boy shorts, 14 short films of gay lifestyle. And I was like, why is this on here? I know it's Here TV is owned by TLA releasing, I think, or something, or Here TV is their own thing or whatever. But they are a distributor in their own right, so they own a lot of films. I guess they own the rights to Taxidermia in the US. And so the entire movie, I was like, is this gonna be gay? No. Is the filmmaker gay? Not as far as I can tell. Okay. Someone at Here TV just really loves Taxidermia. Got it. It like, this movie has no business being in that collection of things. What in fuck? Like Hellbent is on there, but what is this doing there? This would make more sense on like Arrow.
Totally.
Or something.
Anywhere else, basically. Drusilla has said the title already, but just for, efficiency, being official about it, we are talking about from 2006. I'm going to butcher this name because it's Hungarian. Georgi Palfi, Taxidermia. So yes, we both had to join Here TV through Amazon to watch this movie. It was the only way that you could watch it. I was dreading it. I was very nervous because of the reputation, but I really liked this movie a lot. I have a vague feeling that you liked it less than I did. So
Yeah, you'd be right.
yeah, I could tell that you weren't really into it. But let's see how much you
Well,
hated it.
we'll get into it because I don't hate it.
Hmm.
I like explicitly and definitely don't hate it. I think, and we'll get further into it as we go along. I think there's some really great ideas
Hmm.
in this movie, and I think this movie gets at a kind of cultural history of Hungary,
Hmm.
and a kind of like really interesting historical and political dissection of the country in a really, really interesting and compelling way. Um, and the ways in which fascism, Soviet communism, and then capitalism have affected the society. I think it's very much an allegory. However, I think it gets a little too wrapped up in some of its shock value
Hmm.
for me. My big takeaway from this movie was if this was a book, it would be one of my favorite books. I would
Oh
love this. I
wow!
would love this as a book.
What a good idea! It would make a great novel. It does kind of
At
feel like a novel.
It feels like a novel and it flows and moves like a novel.
Yeah, it
Um,
does.
and I feel like if a lot of the grotesqueries and shock factors of this movie were presented in that way, they would have a lot of the same impact, but they would be
Hmm.
more intellectualized and less off-putting
Well, do
because
you know
this is an
what?
incredibly difficult watch.
I mean, as a novel, this would read just like an Otessa Moshfegh novel,
Yeah,
who's like one of the most successful novelists working today. They just adapted her book Eileen into a film. Her book, My Year of Rest and Relaxation, is going to be a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, which is going to be great.
fuck yeah.
So it would just read like Otessa Moshfegh, who's like delights in grossing out the reader. I guess synopsis wise, I'll do the best that I can, but it's a pretty weird movie. It's set in Hungary, as Drusilla said. It spans many decades. It follows three generations of men. The first generation is World War II in a rural military outpost. And there's kind of like a low level military guy there who's living with his lieutenant, like in a shed on his lieutenant's land. His lieutenant has a wife and two teenage or young women daughters that this low level military guy is sort of lusting after. He has a cleft lip. He is sort of like weirdly sexually self destructive. Like he plays with fire a lot. And the family slaughters a pig, and he kind of maybe having sex with the pig, but also imagines that he's having sex with the lieutenant's wife. And
Well,
next
he
thing
does
you
have
know,
sex with the lieutenant's wife.
well, he must, I guess, because of what comes next, which is that he is executed by the lieutenant. The wife has a baby, and the baby has a tail like a pig. That baby grows up. Now we're in the second chapter. That it's now mid-century. We're deep into communism. That baby is now an adult who is a competitive eater for
We
Hungary,
should
which
also
is
say that during World War II, Hungary was an Axis power, and this is fighting alongside the fascists.
yes. Thank you. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about Hungarian history, and I maybe should have Googled, but you did that, so great.
I was doing a lot of research while watching this movie because I was like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
It
Um,
helps.
so the second chapter is about this competitive eater who falls in love with a woman who's also a competitive eater, and it's very disgusting. They get married, and it's sort of about their relationship and courtship, and then they have a baby, which the third chapter follows as an adult, and he's a taxidermy artist who is now taking care of his father, who is like cartoonishly large from a lifetime of competitive eating, and now raises cats to be enormous. And we're following his son, who's this taxidermist, and
Who's
he
like
hates his father.
emaciatedly thin.
Yeah,
Like,
very strange looking actor, I would say. Everyone in this movie is pretty strange looking. That's kind of it. I mean, in terms of like very linear plot, right? I mean,
yeah, and then it has a very shocking and self-destructive, quote unquote, artful ending.
yeah.
Um, yeah.
The movie is absolutely disgusting. You're getting lots of vomiting, you're getting lots of raw meat, you're getting lots of body parts, you're getting a lot of violence. It also, I would say, has a comedic element. Some of it seems
Yeah.
like funny in like a squelchy fart joke kind of way. It's definitely surrealist. Um, it all really worked for me. I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was actually quite beautiful in moments. I mean, it's beautifully filmed.
It's
The
very
production
beautifully
design
filmed.
is
It's
amazing.
2006. There's a good amount of digital effects and
Mm-hmm.
CGI in this movie that is pretty seamless and works really, really, really well. There's a great sequence early on when the grandfather, our first character,
Yeah,
um, has to fill up a bathtub, and we get a little like kind of 360 overview of the bathtub as we
so
see
beautiful.
everything that this bathtub is used for in this time in family's culture, including not just bathing these girls, but also like holding the carcass of a slaughtered pig and for birthing
Yeah,
and like
baking.
all baking and sleeping in. And
It's my favorite part of the movie, probably. I just thought it was so well done.
yeah, well, there's one point along with that that I feel like was almost directly quoted in Saltburn.
Yes.
um in which someone goes down to drink bathwater after two
Yeah.
girls were bathing in it. But I mean, that character is also like a fucking pedophile too. But we also get like kind of surrealist looks into like he's flipping through a pop-up book, and then we go into the pop-up book like Michel Gondry style with people like
Yeah.
live action actors walking around in a giant pop-up book kind of thing. It's really beautifully filmed, and like each period has a distinct visual aesthetic to it, which a lot of it reminded me visually of Roy Anderson movies, just with more activity.
Yeah, I can see
Because
that.
Roy Anderson's like, everyone stop and do nothing for 5 minutes and then say a line.
Well, what did you think of? Let's go just chapter by chapter. The first chapter, I thought. So I have to say, I felt a little dumb because I was pretty confused about what was happening all the time, like in a very literal. I don't understand this historical reference, or I don't understand this cultural moment kind of way. Did you
Mm-hmm.
experience that? I guess you did because you were looking at the Wikipedia
I mean,
for
a little
Hungary.
bit. I like we like when we jumped into the first period, and there's no like title card being like 1942. Like it doesn't do that. You just like based on the wardrobe and the setting, you begin
Hmm.
to suss that out, and you like know that there is a war on. You know that this is a low level soldier, and you know based on his wardrobe that he is a soldier and that it's vaguely this time period because there's an outhouse and it's things are going well in a way that we would understand culturally, that this is like affluent 1940s, though it is pretty affluent considering like war-torn Hungary.
Yeah.
So I was just vaguely being like, that outfit doesn't look like some of the other European war outfits. But the thing that tipped me off is that they had some other soldiers over for the pig to like carve up the pig and have a meal, and they were like celebrating to I think the line was like the final victory, and I was like, that's fascist. That's
Yeah.
that's a fascist dog whistle. And I like Googled it, and I was like, oh yeah, Hungary was an Axis power. Got it.
Yeah.
Understood. So this is a low-level fascist who's a pervert in
Yep.
like every sense of the word. There's I think the most upsetting part of that sequence is that he is just watching the two daughters who are like
Teenagers,
teenagers.
maybe.
It's never explicit. It's always gross. Outside, just like bundled up for the cold, having a snowball fight, like blurry in the distance, and he gets very aroused by this and finds a like knotty pine like hole in the wall of the shed that he lives in, which is like rough and splintery, and
Yeah.
like fills
He
it full of
greases
cream,
it up.
greases
Yeah.
it up, and then sticks his dick in it until a chicken bites it.
The chicken bites
Um,
it. Thank God.
and it cuts to their mom yelling for the girls to come in, which is a very funny cut.
Yeah.
Um, that sequence I found very powerful and very good. It reminded me a lot of some stuff that Pier Paolo Pasolini was doing in his adaptation of the Canterbury Tales. It also, a lot of this movie reminds me of Dusan Makaveyev, who's an incredible filmmaker and made stuff like Sweet Movie and Montenegro and The Coca-Cola Kid. And is a great kind of like communist surrealist filmmaker from the like 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And our central character, that's the reason, a big old just dummy pervert, and that's it. The scene in the like outhouse when he has sex with the wife and
Slash
then slash the daughters slash a pig, is really messed up. But the thing that kind of did it for me though was when he opens up the pop-up book, which is like a children's book about a young girl going on an adventure and being preyed upon by a sadistic older man, and he sees himself as the older man preying upon her. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I think that first part to me is like sort of all about desire, taboo desire or otherwise, because it begins with the lieutenant noticing that this like sort of simpleton low level guy is
sticking his dick in the ice water.
Yeah, sticking his dick in the ice water first thing in the morning. And he goes on this long monologue that I thought was quite well written about the C word, which I won't say here, but he uses the word, and about how, you know, the C word makes the world go around, and it's all about that. You know what I mean? And I thought that was a really well written monologue, even if I think the character is disdainful or whatever. Like the writing on the page is quite good.
He has a really great monologue earlier as well, when he's like, what are you doing today? And what are you doing before that? And what are you doing before that? Which is really, really great. And the way that's shot and structured. This movie is very like, very, very well paced and structured, so that it's going only to get more unpleasant context and thematically as you go on. But you start like if you're shocked by the first third, you're not going to be able to get to the final third. But the thing that I find really interesting is that visually and aesthetically it gets easier. It gets more like appealing, quote unquote, as you get more like saturated colors. As you go, the opening sequence is like really muddy, gray, like almost sepia tone, black and white. And you're objectively dealing with fascism. Like like these are like Nazi collaborators, that are like having a jaunty little like sex comedy out in the middle of nowhere. And so like the further we progress, the more like you're like, okay, well, we're away from that. We're better than that now, and it only gets worse.
For me, the second part. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
For me, the second part was like the hardest. With the competitive eating,
all the puking.
There's a lot of puking. I mean,
it's really a lot of puking.
Triangle of Sadness doesn't even compare to the amount of puking.
It's grosser than that one too. Well, I had to. So they like. We are introduced to the world of competitive eating with them all like eating like a soup, and the soup just looks like puke anyway because it's full of
beans and
like carrots and stuff. So it like looks it looks like puke, and it's also like filmed in that way that a lot of movies tend to film the Russian bloc, the Soviet bloc, of like, you know, very like cool blues. Everyone's kind of like pallid and drunk. Like it's kind of it's got that patina to it, which only makes it more sickly.
Yeah.
And then there's a giant like trough behind all of them, a giant circular trough. And as soon as they're done with each round, they all just go back there to puke. And it goes like 360 around all the competitors puking. And so I was like, cool, I'll just hold my hand under the bottom half of the screen so I don't have to watch that. And then they start having a conversation with each other while they're puking.
Casual conversation while they're puking.
So I'm like, oh no, I actually have to read the fucking subtitles and like look at the puke, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. But there is sort of a sweet love story here, because our main competitive eater, who was the little baby with the tail, falls in love with a woman in the audience who's cheering on Hungary, and
who's a competitive eater from Soviet Cuba.
Yeah, so they fall in love and get married. She's a competitive eater too.
Despite the fact that she cheats on him at their wedding.
She does, in fact, cheat on him at their wedding, which is sort of a strange moment, I thought. There's a scene where someone has them on, like a high level official, a communist official has them on their yacht or whatever
Mm-hmm.
to demonstrate their competitive eating, and they have to eat like 20 kilos of caviar in 20
Red
minutes or
caviar
something like that.
out of
So,
a giant red star.
yeah, like, ugh,
While
it's
she's
so vile.
pregnant, and they've just
She's
paid off
pregnant.
a doctor who was trying to get her to eat more healthy because she's pregnant.
Yeah.
And she like gets very ill on the ship.
Yeah.
Like I got like
You're
really scared for her.
Yeah, and you think that she's going to lose the baby because she says her stomach doesn't. I mean, it's just all like very upsetting.
It's very, very, very upsetting. That is one of the easier sequences to get through, and it's like one of the lighter ones, except for all the fucking puke.
The puking is the thing for me though. So to me, it was the hardest because that was so gross to me.
That was very gross to me, but it was easier to get through. The final sequence, I was like, this will be a lot easier to get through until the end of it, and then that's where I was like, so close to turning the movie off. If I didn't have like 10 minutes to go, I was like, you son of a bitch, this is fuck you.
Yeah, so the third sequence is the third generation. It's, their child, the competitive eaters, they have a child that's, like they say, very small and kind of underweight. So we're following him. He's grown up. He's very skinny, strange man. He's a taxidermy artist who lives or takes care of his father, who's now old and like very comically large, like Emperor
He looks like
Harkonnen
Mr.
from
Creosote.
Yeah, it's like
Monty
science
Python,
fiction. Yeah, it's like a crazy fat suit. He's immobile basically because of his size. They hate each other, and I have to be honest. I'm not really sure what happens in the end, in a literal way.
In a literal way, from my interpretation, well, multiple things. The father is just like sitting around watching TV.
He's eaten to death by his cats. I understand
competitive.
that.
He's eaten to death by his cats because he keeps the cats caged in a prison cell essentially,
and is overfeeding them so that they're gigantic.
Yeah. And all he does is sit around and eat chocolate bars and watch competitive eating on TV, where his ex-wife from the second sequence is now like in America coaching other competitive eaters, and she's like fine and healthy and looks the same.
Yeah.
And he and his son fight, and his son leaves the cat jail essentially open. And when he comes back the next day, a giant hole has been eaten out of his father's stomach, and his intestines run out
all
into the cage,
apartment.
where like in like a line to where the cats are just nibbling at them.
Yeah.
And the son's response is to take his father back to his workshop, where he fills in his missing intestines with like
sawdust
and straw, and taxidermies his father's corpse like in the exact same position that he sat in, so that like his stomach like kind of hovers, like he was sitting on the couch still. And then he puts himself into a rig that he has designed and built to taxidermy himself while he's still alive, and then have his head and right arm amputated while he has this machine continue to keep his heart active.
Ugh.
And all of this is discovered in the final moments by an art collector who just happened to be picking up a fetus keychain from him at the same time. Which he then decides to exploit and turn into a giant art exhibit. Which is then the final, which has been the setup for this movie.
Wraparound,
has been the story of this man's life through the context of this. So my reading of this movie is that we are looking at three different eras in Hungarian history, and the way that fascism, then communism, and then
capitalism.
Affect these individuals' lives, and they are all kind of like metaphorical stand-ins for their generations to a degree.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So our stand-in for like
Capitalism.
the 1940s fascism is like a like dirty kind of stupid little pervert who just does what he's told,
right,
until it gets him killed.
Yeah.
The great symbol of communism, the great like, and of that like mid-century generation, is a competitive eater who like, he takes everything around him, ruins it, and just for himself, to be just a symbol, to be an empty hollow vessel, at the expense of his body, at the expense of his health and well-being, and of those around him. And then when you get to his child in capitalism, he's the only one of these three that has a job.
Yeah.
That has to deal with finances. He like pays a fuck ton of money every day at the grocery store to feed his father and his father's cats. And he's also the only one that has like an artistic ambition, but he's also emaciated and thin. And meanwhile, his father is still gorging himself and still huge. So I took it as like a critique on capitalism and a critique on the kind of baby boomer generation.
Mm-hmm.
And that level of greed, and the way that it has absolutely decimated the following generations and left them with
it
essentially
like
nothing.
No matter what system you have, Hungary gets fucked, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the people are oppressed by every government at every turn.
And the final oppression is that he works himself to death to support himself and his father. He quite literally works himself to death.
Yeah.
To get any kind of like identity and artistic ambition out of that, and he is then exploited in his death to someone else's gain.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting in the communist section in the middle that they chose to make the sort of stand-in for communism a competitive eater, because you think of the capitalist West as the gluttonous ones, but it's like they talk about Cuba and how fruit just grows on trees there, and you can just grab oranges off the tree. You don't have to queue up,
wait in line,
like you do in Hungary. And so it's almost like the only way he can have something, food, is like in this really gross way, this competitive, like doing it for the state. Like, I don't know. It's something, it's an interesting choice because it's not the obvious choice.
You're right. And it's a very accurate and fair critique of Soviet communism of that era, because it was a lot of like communism, of course, as a like should be very equal across the board and should be very fair and balanced. And Soviet communism of that era was very corrupt and tended towards a good amount of greed from the higher classes in support of the party.
Right. And kind of cronyism. They go to a communist yacht, like that sort of thing.
I mean, it reminded me a lot of the Polish movies that were being made around the same time. About like the Milos Forman's The Fireman's Ball was made in the 60s. That was also critiquing Soviet communism for similar ideals. Even Andrzej Wajda's 1950s, 40s, post World War II Polish film Ashes and Diamonds is a critique on both fascism at the time and the that cronyist version of Soviet communism that was coming in, versus the ideals of communism. And so I feel like that a lot of that is in here, and a lot of the like body horror critiques of Dusan Makaveyev are in here. But the thing that this movie made me think of the most is a really famous Luchino Visconti movie called The Damned.
Oh, I've never seen that. From
the 70s, which is about one family during World War II in either Italy or Germany. That is like a big wealthy family who's insulated from the war. But each member of the family is deeply amoral and perverted and show in one way or another, in terms of like rape or pedophilia or incest, or there's like that like quote unquote moral rot is depicted through kind of amoral action.
Yeah.
And in this movie we get a lot of that, and we get it like kind of exposed through the body as much as through behavior. I mean, like, we've got our dirty little pervert with the cleft lip, we've got the very, very large competitive eater father, and then the like emaciated, just like raw bone final generation. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, ideally, this movie has really great ideas in it and really powerful visuals. That as a book I would fucking pore over and would reread very frequently, like Master and Margarita or something like that.
Yeah.
As a movie, it's the self-embalming taxidermy sequence at the end, which is all done in like close-ups of like organs being sliced, and you watch him like look down at a mirror as he's doing it to himself and stitching himself back up, and the final image of the near statue of David version of his body
Yeah.
is beautiful and super powerful.
I thought that
But
surgery was really beautiful. I mean, it is gross, but it also, to me, it just looked so, it was so beautifully filmed and filmed with such care that I thought it was sort of beautiful.
I had a really hard time watching it. And I felt like I was watching Hostel. I had a really,
Really?
really hard time with it. Yeah.
See, to me, this movie wasn't as gross or as difficult as a lot of movies that we've watched on this podcast. I think that this was easier than Singapore Sling. I think that this is easier than Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. I think that this is easier than Audition. So I'm a little bit perplexed by the reputation of it because I don't think it's that bad. It is bad. It's gross. I'm not saying it's not gross.
Yeah.
It's totally gross. But to me, it was like easier to take. Maybe because of the comedic elements of a lot of it, it was a little bit easier for me because it did feel like. And Singapore Sling had this a little bit too. Like it did feel like kind of like fart jokey a little bit, which helps to me.
There's a very like Monty Python-esque quality to this movie. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine it. It's like sort of like, listener, if you haven't watched it, it's like a really gross Janae and Caro movie almost. It's like if you can make Amelie really disgusting, like it's kind of like that.
Yeah, I can see that. It does have that like kind of 90s, mid 2000s European like maximalism kind of filmmaking and lighting to it, which I really enjoy and appreciate, where like things are like really pushed to a surreal color palette. Which is, again, one of the things I like so much about Janae Caro and Roy Anderson and stuff like that. I just... it goes too far visually for me in some places where I'm just like... I feel like we're being shocking just to be shocking. I feel like we're losing the thread on the really, really, really great ideas in here. One of the things that kind of disappointed me, though, was looking this movie up after it came out. This filmmaker hasn't done much on the international stage the way that this movie did. This got the Un Certain Regard at the Cannes Film Festival in 2006 when it came out, which is a huge fucking deal.
Yeah.
And like, he's continued to make features, which are still very politically minded and they haven't made a dent outside of Hungary, it seems. Which is a shame.
It's a shame. I think he's very talented.
He's a very talented filmmaker, and that's like one of the best things about this movie. It's being made by a very strong hand. It's very well written. It's really very well directed. It looks great. It's very, very well designed. I mean, there's, of all the gross things in this movie, like having the outrageously obese later in life version of the father, the like wall in his tiny little apartment is like a like view of the beach. Is like really funny and fucked up, and the hole in his stomach that the cats clawed out is covered by stuffing the cats and just putting them over the hole in his stomach like they're laying on his lap. It's very fucked up and funny and very beautiful and very well done. And that like I was saying, that bathtub shot is so crazy and so well done. And this is a very powerful political movie. I think it deserves better
Mm-hmm.
than just sitting on Here TV and gathering dust to just be an oddity for some like subscribers of that to discover. I think it does deserve, you know, like a Synapse or Blue Underground or Arrow
Yeah, someone cool put
Blu-ray
this out.
edition. But like, or, you know, rep screenings. For, you know, this is, you know, 1,000% an art house horror movie.
Yeah.
Is as challenging intellectually as it is visually and emotionally. It's a tough ride. I just, ooh, it reminds me of Lars von Trier in the way where I'm like, I get it. You're making a really good point. I get it. I wish you didn't have to say it like that.
I often really like Lars von Trier. And I guess for me, I see your point taken. But to me, provocation for its own sake sometimes is okay. You know what I mean? And I feel like as people have more and more pushed against, like, sort of, for lack of a better term off the top of my head, edgelordism, I've sort of defended edgelords as being like, well, we need work that's provocative. We really do. And so
it's certainly provocative.
Yes, it is. If nothing else, it's provocative. So I've sort of made room in my heart and spirit for like edgelord filmmakers a little bit, which I never liked before. And this is definitely in that space for sure.
I think it's definitely an important one. I definitely think it's one worthy of being watched and discussed. I do think it, like, if you are going to be looking at international cinema, it's one of the better examples of mid-2000s international cinema, because I feel like that's kind of a dark age where a lot of stuff was falling off. I feel like Aki Kaurismäki was still doing great stuff at that time. Pedro Almodovar was really stepping into his own at that time, but a lot of people had passed away by that point. A lot of up-and-coming filmmakers hadn't really hit their strides yet, or filmmakers that had been very successful in the 90s kind of had like their dark patches in there. I don't really like Olivier Zayas's mid-2000s movies as much as I like his 90s ones or his 2010s, 2020s movies.
Yeah.
It feels kind of a like shifting point.
Like a dead zone.
And I feel like this is one of the more really compelling and successful ones of that era. And I think it should be taught in film schools in like just world history classes alongside, you know, Satyajit Ray and Akira Kurosawa and all that kind of stuff. I think it's absolutely deserving of that mantle. And I think it needs to be dusted off from its like shock cinema reputation. This should be on a shelf next to a Serbian film.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely belongs in a different part of the video store. But I think it's ripe for rediscovery. I just like, good Lord, some of it's too much for me.
It's a tough watch, yeah.
But I feel like, you know, with the resurgence of the Saw franchise and a lot of people getting really back into that, and movies like Triangle of Sadness pushing stuff like that, and Saltburn literally taking from this movie's playbook, that I think this movie would do well with like a rediscovery resurgence if someone can just get it the fuck away from Here TV. Because what is it doing there?
I will watch a lot of gross stuff if it's funny as well, you know, like those old John Waters movies or Singapore Sling or things like that. So I have space for this in my soul.
Like, this really does rank up with Singapore Sling and Henry and Audition for like the grosser things that we've watched. And I find it very funny that a lot of the listener requested ones tend to be the grosser ones.
The gross ones, yeah.
On that spectrum, Singapore Sling remains my favorite. I adore that movie. It's great. I'm very excited to hear that Vinegar Syndrome is going to be putting it out on disc later this year. Taxidermia is definitely not my favorite of those. I won't be watching it again at any point in time. I will be recommending it to people, but only the certain crowd. I know a lot of people, it's not for them. But it's maybe the most important of those movies. I think it's culturally the most important of the like quote unquote roughies we've watched.
I think my favorite is Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is so unpleasant, and I find that just horrible to watch. But I just think it's so well made, and I think that's a really important movie just in terms of cinema history. But I actually would say this is probably my favorite. Like, it's the one that I'm most likely to rewatch is Taxidermia, to be honest.
I'm glad that you love this one this much.
Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on to Have They Seen It, our favorite game, where we speculate wildly whether notable figures have seen this movie. I was like, fuck, who am I going to do? So I just Googled Hungarian American celebrities, and the list is pretty shocking. You mentioned Gene Simmons early in the episode, but I'm not talking about your Gene Simmons. I'm talking about Gene Simmons from Kiss, famous Hungarian American. Do you think Gene Simmons of Kiss has seen Taxidermia?
No way in hell.
There's no way.
There's no way.
I just wanted to do a callback. Let's be honest.
He gives me the vibe of the kind of person that doesn't watch things with subtitles.
Yeah. I think you're
If you told him, oh my God, Gene, man, this movie's so shocking, it's so fucked up, you would love it. He'd be like, hell yeah, brother. He'd give you the tongue and give you like the devil horn hand, and then would never watch it. He'd be like, yeah, shocking, fucked up, cool. Yeah. Now, I got some kids' merchandise that's shocking and fucked up, and you should buy it. You're like, okay.
I agree. I have nothing else to add. I think you're absolutely right.
So I mentioned that there is a kind of salacious bathtub water drinking scene in this, as there is in Saltburn, which is getting a lot of discussion. A lot of people are saying it's super shocking and they can't watch it. And a lot of people are like, the fuck you calling shocking? Saltburn's very basic.
Yeah, it's like whatever. You've never seen a movie, but go on.
Do you think Emerald Fennell has seen, the writer and director of Saltburn, has seen Taxidermia?
So here's the deal. I think Emerald Fennell is not a good director, and I really disliked Saltburn. So I want to say that she's copying, but I honestly don't think she's cool enough to have seen this movie. Like, I think it's not on her radar. What do you think?
I think I think that's a very valid take, and I think it's a very valid option. I think this is the kind of thing that she saw in college because she had a friend who was like, "This is fucked up. This like it's 2000s," because Saltburn's also set around 2006.
Yeah, you're right.
I think that's around the time she went to college, so I wouldn't be surprised.
She's my age.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if she had like a buddy in college who like got a DVD of it or like had a screening of it and was like, this thing's so fucked up, we all gotta see this. And she was like, damn, that's fucked up. And only thinks about it in the context of like, that's a really fucked up movie, Taxidermia. That's really messed up.
Yeah.
And she just kind of cribbed that to get a bit of cred. But it might also be that she saw it then and then totally forgot that.
Forgot about it. It's just in her psyche, or
it's just in her psyche. Yeah. And just only if you asked her about Taxidermia, she'd be like, "Oh yeah, the fat guy movie," and you'd be like,
"Yeah."
Okay, but there's other things."
Well, like, so not to pit women against each other, but another director who's a young woman who's around the same age is Greta Gerwig, whose movies I like a lot more. But people who don't like Greta Gerwig will say that she ripped off Girlfriends for Frances Ha, or that French movie with the same David Bowie song I can't remember the title of.
Nova Song.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Which is true.
That's Noah Baumbach ripping off Nova Song. Yes, absolutely.
Yes. But I think that Greta Gerwig has actually seen those movies, unlike Emerald Fennell.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? I think she's very well watched, and I think she's like referencing them.
I feel like Emerald Fennell has seen a good amount of movies, but mostly like hasn't watched challenging movies since she left college. You know what I mean?
Emerald, I feel... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I feel similarly to her as I do Rob Zombie in a way, which is that I think she's a good director, but a bad writer. So I'm really interested in her directing someone else's writing because I think she has a good eye and she seems to be good with actors, but I just don't think she's a good writer. She can't structure a screenplay to save her life.
Yeah, that's fair. She's a very good director and is, I'm going to take that back. She's very good with actors to the point that the best thing about Saltburn is the cast and their performances. I'm the Saltburn defender of the two of us.
Yeah.
But my favorite scene in Saltburn is the grave scene. I thought that was very powerful and very great and like a really good choice. And then I saw an interview with Barry Keoghan recently where he was like, that wasn't scripted. That I asked for a close set that day and just wanted to see where it would go. And that was an improv. And I was like, oh, okay. So she don't got that sauce. That she's just letting the actors like, got it.
Yeah.
Well, you've got a really good casting director.
Well, I think she's probably connected. I mean, she's an actor too, right? She was on The Crown,
Is.
so she's probably connected to like London theater people. I've got somebody else who's more likely to have seen this than Gene Simmons. This is another Hungarian American king, apparently. Do you think Adrian Brody has seen Taxidermia?
100%. Adrian
Yeah,
Brody, I
so
feel,
too.
is very well watched. He's been in everything from Dario Argento to Roman Polanski movies.
Yeah.
Um,
I think you'd like this. Also.
And Spike Lee, and like, I feel like he would really like this movie. I don't know how much connection he has to his cultural history.
No idea. I did one Google search 2 minutes ago, so.
But yeah, I feel like he's seen this movie, and I feel like he probably liked it, but I feel like he was probably like, "Ooh, that was a lot," and then had to hide behind his nose or something. I don't know.
I mean, according to this list, here are some other Hungarian Americans: Goldie Hawn, Jamie Lee Curtis, Drew Barrymore, and Tony Curtis. Those are the ones that show up.
I'm gonna guess that none of those have seen Taxidermia. Maybe Drew Barrymore, but I doubt it.
Do you have anyone else in mind?
Well, one of the most famous Hungarian filmmakers is unfortunately not the director of this movie, but a different Hungarian filmmaker, Béla Tarr. The director of Verkmeister Harmonies, and a myriad of other very long, very slow, very Ingmar Bergman-esque Hungarian like really, really big international breakthrough films. And Béla Tarr is kind of up there with like Hong Sang-soo of like this generation's equivalencies of Ingmar Bergman, Federico Fellini, Yoshihiro Ozu, like that this kind of era of filmmaking. He's one of kind of the large international kings of it. Do you think Béla Tarr has seen Taxidermia?
For sure. I'm Googling him now because truth be told, I don't know that filmmaker's work or like what their age is.
He's like nearly 70.
He's about 70. He's my mom's age.
The Turin Horse was a big recent hit of his.
Yeah.
Hit is in massive quotes. And
yeah. That has to be taken with a grain of salt when you're talking about like international art house filmmakers. Yes, I would say yes. Simply from virtue of being a filmmaker from Hungary. Who was, middle-aged in 2006. So I think for sure he would have seen it. What do you think?
Yeah. I feel like he's seen it. I feel like he certainly saw it.
Well, you know his work. Do you think he liked it based on the work that he does?
The only one of his movies I've seen is Verkmeister Harmonies.
Okay.
And I've attempted to watch Santiago, but I could not get through it. It is very, very not my pace of a movie, and it's very long as well. Listeners know I am not good with...
Drusilla does not love a slow movie most of the time.
And Verkmeister Harmonies was rough for me, and that's already only like a barely 2-hour long movie. And I was just like, God!
I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Do you like Jeanne Dillman?
I've never finished Jeanne Dillman. I've seen like half of Jeanne Dillman. Yeah. I've tried multiple times. I've liked what I've seen of it. It's just tough for me. It's really tough for me with that pace of movies. I mean, I actively dislike the films of Ozu. So,
fair enough.
So, I have respect for Béla Tarr as a very socially conscious filmmaker who's doing some very interesting stuff. I just like understand that his movies aren't for me. Yeah. I think he's seen Taxidermy. I think he likes it. I think it's not the kind of movie he makes. However, I think it's a movie that he is fond of. In the same way where you'll hear like Ingmar Bergman be like, "No, but Die Hard was great," and you're like, "Oh,
yeah,
okay." Yeah. Stanley Kubrick like White Men Can't Jump. Okay,
of course. I think liking movies that are not like the movies that you yourself make is kind of the most natural thing in the world.
I think it's really important too.
Well, final word, Béla Tarr loves Taxidermia. 5 stars.
If you ever meet Béla Tarr, talk to him about Taxidermia. I'm sure he has a lot of great things. If you ever come across a Taxidermia DVD, get Béla Tarr to sign it.
He could talk all night about Taxidermia. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you liked it, please rate it 5 stars wherever you listen to podcasts. You can email us at lighthousepod@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram. Drusilla, where are you these days?
My website is at sisterhidedesign.com. We've got prints up there, new ones from The Cure and the Rolling Stones. T-shirts will be coming up there for like art house horror related stuff soon as well, because I got time to kill apparently. You can also find me on Letterboxd at Sister Hyde, or if you just look for Drusilla Adeline, I'm over there, and you can see all the fun stuff I've been watching. And you can find me on Instagram at Hyde Sister. What about you, Josh? How can people cheer on your food consumption?
At Joshua Conkle on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Letterboxd. So no more first-time watches for a while. We are returning to a classic that I know we've both seen and both love. What are we watching next week?
Well, after how much I have derided the genre of slasher movies on this podcast, we're going to the start of slasher movies, at which I am a big fan of. And we are going to some very, very prestigious filmmakers, from Michael Powell and from the 1958 classic Peeping Tom.
Looking forward to it. Thank you. See you all next week. Bye.